Welcome back to the channel, and hi if you're new here, I'm Elise, and today we're going to be learning how to crochet these super quick and easy shorts. This is a beginner-friendly project. I will be working through the stitches with you as we use them. And this is also a super customizable project. You can adjust the size of your waistband or the length of your shorts, as well as the general size, and I will be going over how to do that as we work on our project. All you're going to need for this project is some worsted weight for a yarn. You can use acrylic or cotton. And I'm going to be using 3 different colors for my shorts, but you can use as many or as few as you'd like. You're going to need a 4.5mm hook and a pair of scissors, and we can go ahead and get started. To get started, we're going to make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, we're going to wrap the yarn around 2 of our fingers and across, just like this. Then I'm going to pinch that yarn tail with my thumb. Then taking the pointer finger on my opposite hand, I'm putting that under that first strand of yarn and over the second. Then I'm just going to flip that second strand of yarn up and pull it tight. Okay, let's do that one more time. I'm wrapping the yarn around 2 of my fingers and across. Then I'm pinching that yarn tail with my thumb. And then I'm taking my pointer finger on my right hand and I'm putting that under the first strand of yarn and over the second. Then I'm just going to flip that second strand of yarn up and pull it tight to make my slip knot. So let's go ahead and put our hook into our slip knot and pull on that yarn tail to tighten it down. And we can get started on our chain. Now we're going to start on the waistband of our shorts. Okay, to make a chain, we're going to yarn over and just pull that directly through the loop on our hook to make a chain. Again, yarn over and pull that directly through the loop on our hook. Now I'm going to go ahead and chain 11, and your chain is going to be the width of our waistband. So if you'd like a wider waistband, go ahead and add more chains. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and chain 11 in total. Okay, I have my 11 chains, and that measures about 3 inches wide. Okay, so now we can go ahead and get started on row 1 of our waistband. For row 1, we're going to place 1 single crochet into each one of our chains for the entire row, and we need to start in the second chain from the hook. So this right here is going to be the first chain from the hook, and this is the second chain from the hook right here. So we need to put our first single crochet into that second chain. Okay, to make my very first single crochet, I'm putting my hook into that second chain away. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop so that I have 2 loops on my hook. Then I'm yarning over and pulling through both of those loops on the hook, and I have made my very first single crochet. Again, I'm putting my hook into that next chain. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop so that I have 2 loops on my hook. Then I'm yarning over and pulling through both of those loops on my hook to make my second single crochet. So we're going to keep making 1 single crochet into each one of our chains for the rest of the row. Okay, I've made my very last single crochet. So you should end with 1 less stitch than the number of chains that you made originally. So I had 11 chains in total, so I ended with 10 single crochet stitches. Okay, before every single row on our waistband, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work over so we can start working back down in the opposite direction. Let's get started on row 2. For row 2, we're going to place 1 single crochet into each one of our stitches in the back loop only. So now you can see that we have these 2 V's at the top of our stitch right here. And this here is going to be our front loop, and this is our back loop. So for every one of our single crochets, we should be going into that back loop just like that. And for every row, when we get started, we're going to be skipping over this chain that we made that does not count as a stitch. So let's make our first single crochet. I'm going into that back loop of that first stitch. And go ahead and make your first single crochet. Again, I'm going into the next stitch, into that back loop, and making my next single crochet. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that for the entire row, and I will meet you back here. I'm at the end of the row now, and I want you to make sure that you do not miss this last stitch. This is very easy to skip over on accident. You want to make sure that you have the exact same number of single crochets in row 2 that you had in row 1. So you don't want your work to get any smaller or larger. It should stay exactly the same size for every single row of your waistband. Okay, like I said, before every row, we're going to chain 1 and flip our work over and start working back down in the opposite direction. So for row 3 onward, I'm going to go ahead and do exactly the same thing that we did in row 2. I'm skipping over the chain and making 1 single crochet into the back loop only of every stitch for the entire row. Then I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work so I can get started on the next row. So we're going to keep adding rows until you're happy with the size of your waistband. You just want it to fit comfortably around your waist, and this will be different for everyone. So go ahead and finish your waistband, and I will meet you back here for the next step. Okay, I'm finished with my waistband, and now we need to attach these 2 edges here together. Okay, to attach the first row together with the last row, I'm going to slip stitch along both of the edges. So I've got my hook here, and I'm going into the back loop of my last row, and then into that first chain. This is the original chain that we made. And I'm going to make a slip stitch by yarning over. I'm pulling up a loop, and then I'm pulling that directly through the loop that was already on my hook to make a slip stitch. Okay, I'm going into that back loop, the next one, into that next chain, yarning over, and pulling that directly through the loop on my hook. So I'm going to keep doing that until I have both of these edges connected all the way down. Okay, and that's what it should look like. We have the seam here. So this seam is going to mark the back of our shorts. We want this in the back, not in the front. And I'm going to go ahead and start working on my shorts in a different color. So I need to tie off with the white. And to do that, I'm going to chain 1 and then cut my yarn. And then just pull that directly up through the chain that I made and pull it tight. So I have my new yarn color here, and I want to attach it to this back seam. So I'm going to pull the yarn through that stitch at the back seam of my shorts, and I'm just going to tie it in a knot so it doesn't come undone. Okay, then I'm going to put my hook back into that stitch, and I'm going to pull up a loop. Okay, so now we can go ahead and start working the next row. We're going to chain 1. So now we're going to half double crochet 1 all the way around this top edge of our waistband. So I'm going to start by half double crocheting 1 into the same space that I attached my yarn to at the back. To make a half double crochet, we're going to yarn over, insert the hook into that stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop so that you have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops on the hook. Now we're going to be working 1 half double crochet roughly into each one of our rows that we had. So if you go ahead and count the number of rows that you have in your waistband, you should end with the exact same number of half double crochets at the end of this row as the number of rows that you have in your waistband. And it's a little tricky to see where to place your stitches, but just remember that you want roughly 1 half double crochet at the top of each one of your rows. So go ahead and keep working 1 half double crochet all the way around, and I will meet you here at the end. Okay, I'm back at the beginning of the row. You can see I've placed 1 half double crochet into the top of each row all the way around. And now I'm going to insert my hook into this very first half double crochet that we made, yarn over, and pull that directly through that loop on my hook to make a slip stitch. Okay, to get started on the next row, we're going to chain 1 And then I'm going to flip my work over so I can work back in the opposite direction. And we want to do this so we have a nice even seam on the back of our shorts. Okay, so as always, we're skipping over that chain that we made, and we want to place our very first half double crochet into the first stitch. And make sure that you are going into the entire stitch this time. We will not be working into the back loop only. So go under both of those V's to make each of your half double crochets. So we're going to place one half double crochet into each stitch for the entire round. So go ahead and do that, and I will meet you back here. Okay, I'm at the end of the row, and the next thing I need to do is make a slip stitch into that first half double crochet that I made at the beginning of the row. But for the next row, I want to start using a new yarn color. So what I'm going to do is cut this yarn that I'm using, and I'm going to take my new yarn color, and I'm going to start making my slip stitch into that first half double crochet, and I'm picking up the new yarn color to make my slip stitch. Okay, so now I'm just going to take my two yarn tails here and tie those together to secure them. Just like that. And I'm going to start the next row by chaining one and flipping my work over so I can work back in the opposite direction. Okay, for the next row, we're going to do the exact same thing that we just did. We're going to place one half double crochet into each stitch for the entire row. Okay, and you can see that we have these yarn tails here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull those through to the back of my work, like that. And then as I make my half double crochets, starting in that first stitch from the hook, I'm going to work my stitches around them. Like that. And as I work, they will be hidden within my half double crochet stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing that I did in the previous row. I'm placing one half double crochet into each stitch all the way around. And again, I will meet you back here at the end. Okay, you can see that I am at the end of the row now, and I'm making my slip stitch into that first half double crochet. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and repeat this until we're happy with the length of our shorts from the waistband down to the leg opening. So again, this is gonna be different for everyone. We're just gonna be placing one half double crochet into each stitch for every single row with our slip stitch at the end. Then we're gonna chain one and flip our work over to start on the next row. So go ahead and keep adding rows until you're happy with the length of your shorts from your waistband, like I said, down to the leg opening, and I will meet you back here. Okay, so I finished all of my rows from the waistband down to the leg opening, and this is what it's looking like. Again, yours might be a little bit longer or a little bit shorter than mine. So the next step is that we need to divide this opening here into both of the leg openings on either side. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to make a chain, and then we're going to attach that chain to the stitch directly behind our seam here in the center to divide this into an opening on either side. So the first step, you need to make sure that your seam is directly in the center of your project. Go ahead and fold it in half if you need to make sure it's right in the center. Next, we're going to make our chain. Now, I recommend chaining between 10 and 20, but this is going to depend on your size and how you'd like your shorts to fit. So you might chain less if you wear a smaller size or more if you wear a larger size. I'm going to go ahead and chain 15. Okay, so I have my chain, and now I need to attach it to the stitch directly behind my seam here. So that's going to be this stitch right here. And I'm going to connect my chain to the stitch in the back by making a slip stitch. So we'll put our hook into that stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then pull that directly through the loop on our hook. Okay, so we have now divided our shorts into the leg openings on the right and the left of our chain here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start making our half double crochet rows around this edge, and then rather than continuing this way, we're going to work up this side of the chain and continue working our leg out like this. And then once we finish that leg, we'll go over to this side and do the same thing on this side. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is make my first half double crochet straight into the same stitch that I made my slip stitch into. And then I'm going to go ahead and make one half double crochet into each stitch all the way around until I get back to my chain here, and then I will meet back up with you. Okay, so as you can see, I have made a half double crochet all the way around that edge, and I'm back over to my chain. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make one half double crochet into each one of my chains here on this side until I get down to my very last chain. Okay, so now I'm at the end of my chain, and I'm going to make a slip stitch into that first half double crochet we made after the chain, and go ahead and start on the next row by chaining one. And I'm just going to flip my work over and start working back in the opposite direction because it's a little bit easier that way. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to keep on adding rows the same way that we have been around this opening, around this edge, until we're happy with the length of the leg of our shorts. Okay, so I'm going to start the next row, working back in the opposite direction. I'm working rows exactly the same way that we did up here. And I will meet you back here when I am happy with the length of the leg of my shorts. And we will go ahead and get started on the other side. Okay, I have just finished this leg on my shorts, and I ended up doing 6 rows in total, but you might have more or less than I did depending on the look that you want. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn and just chain one, and then I'm pulling that up through the chain just like that and pulling it tight. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in this yarn tail here. Okay, so now we can go ahead and get started on the other leg. And what we want to do is attach our yarn. We can attach it anywhere along this edge here that you want. I'm going to go ahead and attach mine right here because I think it'll be pretty well hidden. Okay, so I'm just going to attach my yarn to this stitch here. And then I'm putting my hook into that stitch and pulling up a loop. Then I'm going to chain one and get started on my half double crochet rows exactly the same as we did on this side. So go ahead and start working your half double crochet rows to match the right side of your shorts to the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing on this side that I did on this side, and I will meet you back here. Okay, once you have finished the other leg of your shorts to match the first one, you are all done. Go ahead and try them on and make sure you like the way they fit and the way they look. You could go ahead and add some extra rows to the bottom of your legs if you need to. Go ahead and weave in all your yarn tails if you have any left, and you are all done with your shorts. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not already. We're trying to reach 100,000 crocheters here on the channel. And if you are already subscribed, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.